You're supposed to try your best to be a good person, even though we are all flawed. If the Bible does it for you and it makes you a better person, stick to it. But I can't go up and start Bible thumping and throw my 900,000 page Bible on top and say, if you ain't following how I'm living, because I lived over here and it doesn't adhere to how you live over there, and you still living peacefully on the other side of the world, and I've never seen you, but you're a thriving a thriving civilization on the other side. Who am I to say you're wrong? So that's when it could get real tricky, like HD said. But are you a good person at the end of the day?
Yeah, mistaken. We definitely conceded that, the
Mhm.
conception and the overall themes that was given was 1 to 1,
Mhm.
male, female, right?
And I'm in
And then
agreement. I
being
can't do no
fruitful.
800 wives. Mm-mm. No, I'm
I mean,
good.
I might could do three, but I think
What?
after three, you
Listen,
go.
y'all struggling with one.
You have a strong back.
Struggling with one.
Listen. But also, it's like I look at it like this: is that even though there is multiple interpretations, and you can kind of get a feel that people have came to the same conclusion uh, across the globe. I think the spirit is the same, and I think also like when you start diving into people's theology, like even some things in the word, it's like you read some of those things, and as you continue to grow and experience God, you kind of get a baseline of how he leads and guides his people. But that's why it's also important to be around other people that can help you to like kind of like get to that entire picture. Just like when I don't know, it was mistaken in somebody last class that we had where we were talking about the coin, or we was talking about the prism, right? One side of the coin says one thing, the other side of the coin says another thing. Now, our perception is repeating information that we can prove. But when we put both our perceptions and perspectives together and the facts that we present, we can actually get the entire picture, which is something that, Landon or Claudio was actually trying to allude to, is that, you got your own personal facts that can be proven, but the overall picture or the overall objective truth is that you guys are looking at a coin that has information that's different on each side. Same thing if you look at a prism. When you shine a light at a different angle, you get a different color. And this person is not wrong for saying, hey, the color is this, the color is this. But in all reality is that the more information that we receive, the better the overall picture that we get as far as actually getting to the truth of the matter instead of speculating on a whole bunch of people's opinions.
And I
So
would say,
uh, oh, go ahead, Kenny.
to touch on that real quick, Amber Rose nor Cardi B is a representation of anything Christian values. I'll
So,
leave it there.
and my point is going to be just as quick. I agree with HD. I could do maybe three. However, if I don't want bleach in my coffee, I better stick to one.
Facts. These women over here, listen, the thought of another woman being in a space, oh, fire and brimstone. You listen, she taking everything that you got. If you had nothing, you ain't gonna never have nothing. It's just like, but it makes sense why women and men only want one person because, you know, we don't like the term possession, but you become possessive over the person that you choose, right? Even when we try to take away some of the hard language that's in the Bible, right? In the New Testament, it talks about us being his new possession, right? That means he owns us. He's the husband, right? And he's the wife. And even in the history of marriage, the woman was essentially a possession to the husband, right? So we kind of carry a lot of the same traditions, even though we're not traditional people. So I tend to look at things like try the more overall perspective of the Bible because I mean, it's a lot to go through. And the more you keep reading it, you might see a different wrinkle or a different angle, or somebody else might bring it to you. And now you start seeing the picture a little bit more well rounded. So I try to give people a level of grace to some degree, but there be clear stuff in the Bible where I'd be like, y'all tripping. Like it clearly, very clear about this, and this. But yet we dance around it and won't be able to call people out about it. But it's just like, you know what? At the end of the day, sweep around your own door. Take time to handle your own business. You know, lead a quiet life. Handle your own business. And then, if it should be a situation where you can actually try to impart wisdom, pray, care, show love to one another, do that. Take every opportunity possible to try to love on somebody and show them care. But they be clear. I mean, clear. Like I was like, yeah, that just sounds like a bad idea. And when people be doing certain stuff.
Just know that you, again, like I guess the point that Kenny was making is that you're making that judgment based on the lens of Christianity, because that's your belief, but not everybody lens is the same. Now what I can say is that um what I've come to learn or understand is that I grew up too, so in the church as well. I think most, especially from our generation, most Black people did. Um, is that this whole, like, the idea of unequally yoked, right? That I think a lot of people misunderstand that to just mean religion. At least from a biblical perspective, is that that was what I was taught. Being unequally yoked was marrying somebody of a different religion. But I've came to understand that is not about the religion itself. It's more about your foundation, your belief system, because you have people who get divorced who are Christians all the time. So if it was just about religion, you would think that they would not get divorced, right? Because they should share the same values, the Christian values that should make a marriage work. You would assume that. But I came across something that kind of articulated exactly what I was feeling and thinking, about how it's more about both of y'all sharing the same value system, because that is what really makes the marriage work. You can be Christian and both of us reading the same Bible, but I'm getting a different understanding, interpretation from it based on my own experience, based on maybe the church that I grew up in, or how I interpret it, or any of those things. And somebody else can read the same passage and get something totally different from it. But if we are not on one accord with understanding, it's not going to work. So I think sometimes people use religion, the Bible, to weaponize it. Um, and I'm like, what I've learned over the years is that regardless of what religion anybody's in, you can always find a common thread in those religions that really has to do with treating people like what they say, the golden word, treat others as the way you want to be treated, like having some kind of grounding in humanity, things like that. But like what I was saying, I had saw that a lady had explained it, where when they talk about being unequally yoked, they were talking about like oxen and how you would use it to have them, pull. But if one oxen had like a weak leg, or a weak right leg, but then the other one had a weak left leg, when you yoke them together, they would still be able to pull straight because their weaknesses weren't exactly the same. And they were strong in other areas, which were still able to pull each other forward. But if you had the same weaknesses, If both of them had 2 weak legs and they would veer off course. They wouldn't work together well. So the idea is to try to find somebody that is equally yoked with you. So you don't want to share the same weaknesses, basically. And I was like, oh, wow, that kind of hit the nail on the head.